I'm from Colorado, and I love the Rocky Mountain National Park, and my family loves to go there. And we spend every summer at least multiple trips up there. And where there's a specific place, the Rocky Mountain National Park, where the Big Thompson River goes through this beautiful valley, and it is one of those picturesque locations. So I'm there with my family. I've got at the time, I had 3 young boys. And they were doing what young boys do. It's weird how the more little boys get together, they only kind of share one brain. So if you're 3 boys, they only are using a third of their brain. You know, think about how bad it gets if they have 6 boys together, right? But that's kind of how they work. And they're having a blast. They're running, they're jumping, they're splashing in the water, they're throwing rocks at each other. And I love it because they're having these experiences they're going to remember. In the middle of all that chaos, my youngest son stops. He looks at me and says, "Dad, why does this river not flow straight?" No, I was going to do the dad thing. I was going to make something up. I mean, he didn't have a smartphone. I should make something up. It was no big deal. And just then my oldest son, who's over, and I think he's trying to skip stones, but he's just really making big splashes. He looks up, he says, with all of the love of an older sibling, "It's the rocks, dummy." And proceeded to talk about, the rocks get in the way, and the water moves around, and the erosion and all that sort of stuff. That interaction has sat with me now for almost a decade because he was so right. The rocks are what get in the way. The river's going to continue to move, but the rocks are the things that get in the way of any journey that we're on. And it's been the catalyst for really where CX for Rocks is, if you're wondering, why did he name his company that? Because it's really understanding that the rocks, these obstacles, these challenges are the things that our customers are dealing with, our employees are dealing with, we personally are dealing with. And it really hit home with me a couple of years ago. Ultimately, it really hit me at this point where I said, we are looking at a time where CX, customer experience, is at transition. And these rocks that we're facing, they don't really block the river, they define them. And we're looking at these challenges to say these obstacles that we're facing, these rocks within customer experience are very real. So we all believe wholeheartedly that CX is probably the most important thing in our organizations, right? Who does not agree at a CX conference that CX is the most important thing? I don't think any of us would say that. And yet, not everybody believes like us. Yeah, they're completely wrong, but not everybody believes like us that that's the case. Because CX has an identity crisis. The noun definition of CX versus the verb definition of CX are very different right now. And I talk about this a lot to say we're facing both the evolution but also the destruction of CX currently. Because the noun of CX is under fire. The person, the department, the role, the survey, the metric. We are debating those like crazy, even within our own industry. And we talked earlier today at one of the breakout groups, what metrics are the right thing? We're not all necessarily in agreement. It's going to be different for all of us. But the noun of CX is a challenge. There are layoffs still happening. 24 was horrible for CX professionals. It's still bad in 2025. That's the challenge. But what's evolving is the verb of CX, the customer's actual experiences. It is more important now than ever. Because the data is showing that that's the key, that we have to understand that those opportunities are there. But we're all facing this in the river that we're on, this journey that we're on. We're facing these obstacles, both for our careers in that context, but also with the work we're doing and ultimately understanding how are we going to reach that solution for our customers. So the first question I like to ask is, what kind of river are you on? Now, there are 6 classes of rivers out there. One being the smoothest flow to class 6, which is literally extremely dangerous. So class 1, let's look at that together. That is the lazy river. You're on an inner tube, you got a cold one, the sun on your face and warm, and the cool water below you, and you're just enjoying the ride. That may look to you in business like email inbox at 0. Everybody is working really well together and getting along grand. All projects are not just on schedule, they're ahead of schedule and under budget. If you're in a class 1 river, you're probably on vacation. Class 3, where more of us live and breathe most of the time, there's movement, but there's turbulence. You're getting things delivered in time, sometimes maybe a little bit late, but the projects are kind of moving, but they could move better. People could be working better together with each other. Very common for many of us. Class 5, this is white knuckle stuff. Colorado, you pay really good money to have a guide take you on a river to tackle class 5 rapids. But this is someone's getting tossed from the boat, layoffs. Challenges with the project delivery or products. Those are the challenges we face in class 5, and they come and they go. So quick poll of the audience. Who here right now is on a class 1 river? I didn't think so. Who here is somewhere in the middle, a class 3 river? Using the normal frost, that's about 83.2%. Who's on a class 5 right now? Who's willing to admit it? We got a couple. Absolutely. So for the rest of you, who's ever been on a class 5 river? We all have. Because the reality is, it's not that if we're going to face these challenges in our organization and the work that we do, and honestly, personally, the reality is we're going to hit them. What's more important, how are we going to navigate them? Changing the mindset when we attack these items or look at these items is extremely important. Now, I want you to think about your last class 5 experience. So I want you to scan the QR code, and in a short phrase or a word or a couple of words, I want you to share anonymously kind of what drove that last class 5. And while we're doing that, so this reality is we've got to think and reframe how we think about the obstacles we face, because it's very easy to just say, obstacles are bad, let's try to get rid of them and move forward. But what if those obstacles were actually opportunities? What if the friction you face in your journey is actually formation waiting to happen? This is how we can think about these challenges in our journey, because again, if we go back to that earlier statement, the rocks don't block the river, they define it. We use those obstacles as opportunities to change, because sometimes without a catalyst, you can't change. Oh, here's a few. New CEO. Everybody, that is a big one, right? New CEO means usually change of direction. Business, dealing with CX illiteracy. Building with challenges, yes. Layoffs, that got big and bold really fast. Unclear expectations, reorg, regulatory change, any of these things, product challenges, competing goals. These face us every day. And so again, going back to where we are and where we're trying to focus here, how do we look at these as opportunities to move forward? And how do we use that? Well, the first is we kind of have to understand where we are. Now, I lied to you earlier. I said we were all on a river. We're actually all navigating 4 rivers at the exact same time. And these are what I call the 4 C's of CX. These are the 4 types of experiences that we have to understand and navigate, and we have to know that our business is navigating while we're navigating these individually, and every employee we have, or every employee of an organization, is also doing the same. The first is exactly what we've been talking about, customer experience. We are here to serve. CX, customer experience, is all about driving value to others. This is the purpose many of us have, and this is what we in this room are extremely passionate about. Delivering the experiences we would want specifically and driving the kind of changes that we're looking for. This is the river of trust, because you've got to create trust for your customers for them to keep coming back. The next is the river of career, the second C of CX. Because again, if you're thinking about the other things that build into this, this is fundamentally where EX absolutely aligns with customer experience. Because if we and or our teams do not have our careers in alignment with serving customers, there's a disjointed situation. Because I'd venture to say that we're not really facing as much a CX challenge, we're facing an alignment challenge right now. The career experience, because this is the experience, this is the focus of progress. Are we and our employees making progress? And it doesn't just mean promotions, but are we making progress and delivering value to others? Because as humans, that's what we require. So we can't serve the customer if, from a career perspective, we and our employees aren't also in that same space with a positive movement. The third C of CX is community. We're humans. Companies are made up of people, and we all absolutely are built for community. We are not built to do this alone. CX is not a solo sport. It is, more than anything else, a team sport. This is the river of belonging, creating purpose around belonging, creating community around that together. And again, as an organization, how many people, their main community is the job they have? Absolutely, so crucial to delivering. So if my career is in order and I'm able to serve customers, but my community is not strong, there may be disjointed nature there as well. The fourth C of CX is core. This is vision, value, this is purpose. This is everything at the core of what we believe and what our employees believe, what our team members believe, and fundamentally. So for businesses, this is mission, vision, and values. Is it real or is it just on paper? Are we aligning truly beliefs and values of an organization that then the employees can align to and align with as well? It's so important to hit at this level. And a lot of companies, this is lip service at most when we think about that. But again, we are here for that kind of purpose. We're here to drive that. This is the engine that drives everything else as we move forward. Is your personal mission in sync with the work that you're doing? So I think you can see this. If you go up and down these levels, they all interact. These four rivers are constantly flowing, and sometimes they're in different levels of disjointedness. You've got rocks in one, you've got other challenges in another, and God forbid when all four are not flowing the right way. Anybody ever felt that? Absolutely, we all have. Those are some of the challenges we face. But in organizations, we don't focus enough on all of the C's of CX. And I'd say that's where a lot of today's conversation has been around. Lack of alignment, lack of being able to say, hey, we need a better mission and vision that will actually help us understand the customer's experience. Our careers are not in line with what we're doing because we have layoffs and challenges. Our community is not strong. These are the four C's of CX and something that we have to work on together. Now, just a quick side note, I've started with some peers and partners, a community specifically for that, cxontherocks.com, because all four of these C's are in trouble. And only way we can do these is do it together. So if you ever want to go to cxontherocks.com, we have events, we have content, love to share that with you and have you join us. Because going back to it one more time, the rocks don't block the river, they can combine them. We can use these obstacles, these challenges that we face as a catalyst for change. I said that earlier. Now it gives us an opportunity, if we think about it clearly across the four rivers, how do we gain better formation? Because when the rivers align, when they're all flowing together, it's powerful. There are very few organizations that reach that level, and sometimes they only happen for a little while. And then other challenges pick up. Now, what are the obstacles that get in the way? So we've got these rivers. Now, one of the things I want you to think about a little bit here as we go through this is keep in the back of your mind a progression. I want you to think about yourself, that those class 5 rapids are the biggest challenges. Think about that for your organization right now. Which of the rivers needs the most attention? And we're going to build on that as we go through the session together. Now, in all the consulting I've done, all the work I've done, for employees for 30 years, I really uncovered these are the main 4 areas that create the most challenges for us. And in fact, every kind of rock fits in one of these areas. So I'm going to continue the metaphor here. The first is sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks, as we know in nature, are the layers and silos, right? You see in the Grand Canyon and stuff like that. Think of sedimentary rocks as anything that separates. Silos, layers of complexity in your organization. Challenges that cause there to be, we've always done it this way because it's kind of stuck in the past. Sedimentary rocks are some of the most common that I think you probably experience, because organizations, as they grow, by default develop these kind of challenges, old processes where they don't all get recovered in the right level. So you got these skeletons that are causing, problems in your business. You've got layers and lack of communication. The second category of rocks is metamorphic, change. We talked earlier today about changes and how challenging they create for your customers. You change a product, that's hard, right? You have to focus on changing in community, changing together. The last session was incredible about that, using your customers, because as you change, you want them on board, but absolutely across your organization, because change can be a very ugly thing. Anybody old enough to remember New Coke besides me? Change can be really bad. I still think that might have been a ploy. I don't know. But fundamentally, change can be such a problem, but we're facing it all the time as well. Reorganizations. Again, these are the things that go on. You're changing products, changing services. The next is igneous. These are lava events across your business. Volcanoes that explode across your business, outages. I worked in telecommunications for about 15 years across multiple different companies. System outages, I feel for my friends at Comcast, outages like that are horrible to the customers, but they're just as bad to your employees. Those kind of eruptions, layoffs can be that way. And the last one, if all of you were geologists, you would say there's only 3 rocks on Earth. It's those first 3, but I had to add another one, meteoric. Stuff that comes from the outside. We just finished the time not to be named. That was an extinction level event for a lot of businesses, because the outside, we've got 2 wars going on right now. There are so many outside factors that are impacting us that we have to understand that. So if you look across those challenges, we have to understand that we're breaking silos to get people working together. We're communicating around change, so much more importantly, to drive it in a way that creates alignment versus separation. We've got to be prepared for both igneous and meteoric rocks. We don't know when they're going to hit, and we don't know exactly, but we can practice preparation. We can actually be as focused on what could happen, doomsday preppers of our own business, to say we got to be prepared when stuff happens, because it's going to happen. And we got to be prepared for that and drive the ability to respond accordingly. So what do you do when you find rocks? You got a big rock in your journey. Maybe it's sedimentary, maybe it's igneous, whatever it is. You got a big rock going on. Well, if you're going to deal with rocks, you have 5 choices. They all respond to the break method. Where to break rocks? Customer experience to drive ease is all about breaking rocks. I mentioned in one of the smaller groups that right now, when something's hard for a customer to accomplish, they are 13 times more likely to be disloyal. It used to be single digits. 13 times more likely to be disloyal to your brand when something's hard. Well, what causes that? It's obviously these challenges, these obstacles. Well, the first choice is blast. If something is bad enough, blow it up. Rip and replace. That can be a system that just has to go. It could be a product that you just got to put a bullet in. Anything that of major challenge. Now, the reality is you got to be prepared for that. If it's a blast event, there's going to be collateral damage because you probably haven't been able to put as much preparation into it. But you got to go into that understanding, if I rip this out, I got to be prepared for what comes after, because that sudden reaction can cause change, but sometimes it's worth it. Absolutely. I know in my personal life, I've had to leave environments that just weren't right for me. I had to get out. I think that's probably true for many of us. So blast is a sudden reaction. Well, we'd all love to live in this space. Remove. Find it, get the funding, get the prioritization, and remove it. This is absolutely where we would love to live for everything. But who's got too many rocks in their business to handle them all? I think we all do, right? We've got too much going on. There's too many challenges ahead of us. It's one of the reasons earlier I had you pick in your mind, which of your rivers are you focused on right now? Because removal is not necessarily the right thing. So sometimes you got to erode. You got to chip away at it. This can be culture initiatives are absolutely kind of an erosion strategy. You're just chipping away because you can't change culture overnight. It's not real. You got to change it a little bit over time. Sometimes it's you can't fix a system, but you can make major tweaks over a period of time to eventually hit a level of scale that you can make that happen. You can still take action on those issues. But sometimes you just got to accept it. Not something you can prioritize. Honestly, maybe it's not even something you can do about it. How many times I heard regulatory this morning in a couple of the tables with you guys. There are a lot of things that you just have to accept it. But the key is that obstacle has to be reframed to say, I'm accepting it, which means I'm not going to dwell on its pain and its challenge. I'm going to focus on how I'm navigating around it because I've accepted that. I'm not going to waste the time thinking about what I can't change in that context, right? And the last is keep. This is where you've got a rock that you specifically choose to put in your path. Businesses do this during mergers and acquisitions. Because if it was all about ease, no one would ever merge or acquire another company. It just would never happen because it is painful. Talk about the metamorphic change that can cause problems, right? But it's one of those things that if you have that future identity that says, if we do this, we will be so much better off. That gives you that chance. So you keep it and you focus on driving to that future state, despite of the fact that you're creating challenges on the way. And your company and your employees will go with you if they understand why, if you've invested in that with them. So you have these 5 choices when you face these rocks. So we talked a little bit about your river. You picked a river, hopefully, in the back of your mind. Maybe you found, as I was talking about the rocks, what kind of rock was in there? What kind of rock was it? Now you're going to think about how are you going to address it? What's the right solution? Because not all solutions are the same. Now we're here because we want to drive to some level of success. Right? Ideally, in this context, we're building programs from a customer's perspective where everything is smooth sailing. And to do that, we've aligned career, community, and core. And we are now operating, instead of just as 4 separate rivers, we're operating as one combined massive flow of water and energy. Momentum that takes us to this future. What does this future look like? Well, we're trying to reach a level of flow. Yes, I am beating you to death with metaphors and analogies, but it's all real stuff and acronyms. It's about fulfillment. We as employees, our employees themselves, they need some level of fulfillment. I am contributing. I'm contributing to a valuable environment. I'm contributing positively to myself and others around me. It is a huge area of opportunity as we think through this because people show up with energy when they have fulfillment. They can overlook some of the challenges if they feel fulfilled in the work that they're doing. Now, is it always easy? No, not always. Loyalty. Loyalty is at all-time lows across the board. Customer loyalty. It is based on your last experience, everything. There's no longer an average of all of their experiences with your company that they average it out. No, it's your last experience. As Janet Jackson said, what have you done for me lately? Right? So the reality is we got to understand that loyalty is key and we got to drive that to ensure, and it's done through ease and effort. But this is where people really show up because the loyalty has built the trust and you've driven that level. Opportunity. If we think about the rocks as obstacles and we don't reframe our mind to say, these are the opportunities that come out of that, professionally, personally, however you want to look at that. If we don't think of it that way, then we're going to miss out on those opportunities, right? They say luck is when opportunity meets preparation. Well, if you're focused on the negative and focus on those obstacles, you're going to miss these opportunities as they come. So opportunities, whether it's career opportunities or organizational opportunities, et cetera, we have to be prepared for that. But that's where the future comes in. And lastly, wealth. Not just salary, not just revenue for the business, but wealth across your organization and everybody within it to say we are contributing, we are delivering, we have wealth of culture, we have strategic wealth, and yes, financial wealth. That's what businesses are here to do as well. So what do your rivers look like? Now I've absolutely experienced all 4 of these variations for periods of time. And then something happens and maybe things get thrown off a little bit. But ultimately, yeah, there have been times where flow, purpose, everything is moving in the right direction. And organizations can face that and rally around that as a positive. But when things change, we got to be prepared because maybe the rocks show up, the rivers start to split. We have to understand that layoffs have to happen and are occurring from a career perspective. And we got to make sure that we understand that we're going through that. Maybe some rivers at some point, they get mudded out. The rocks are so severe, they're down to a trickle that we've got to understand, being aware of that and making that change. But here's what's most important. These are relevant at the organization level, but more importantly than anything else, everybody that's a part of that organization is still navigating these same things. It's both the positive and the negative associated. And so as organization leaders, taking this opportunity to be thinking beyond the normal CX is just one thing. CX is the experience we create, the verb. We've got to understand how all of these pieces drive together. Now, this comes out of the coaching and workshops I do with organizations all the time, from C-level to front lines, is to really understand this and dig into those bigger challenges, because if we define them, we can understand them, we can change them. We can have a future that is different than we're looking at today. Let's go back to where we started. It's the rocks, dummy. These are the challenges that we're facing, but if you focus on a river, because you can't boil the ocean, as was mentioned in the last session, you've got to focus on one area for your organization. Is it a career thing right now? Is that where the most challenges are for your organization? Is customer experience actually the major challenge, et cetera? We got to focus on one of those rivers, and then you identify which of the rocks is in there, because again, if we name that source, we can change it. We can focus on moving past that. Then you take an approach, methodical, systematic, to categorize what you're going to do. Because again, not all responses to all rocks are going to be the same. You then drive that to reach this level of flow. And this is where in workshops or in consulting I do, we have rocks teams, cross-functional teams that come together to talk about the obstacles within the organization, determine where within the organization that are the biggest challenges that need to be addressed. How are we going to do that together? How are we going to move past that in that context? Because again, the rocks don't block the river, they align them. It gives us the chance, because again, going back to what I said earlier, we have a CX identity problem, but we have a alignment major issue within organizations today. Because everything is being influenced at a global, massive scale, and everyone in our teams are focused on that as well. And that's why I'm so passionate about this message, because as we think about alignment, I'm not an alignment expert because I got everything right. I'm more probably alignment expert because I've gotten most things wrong and had to figure it out like all of you together. And this is where transformation in organizations can be so powerful. Did a session just a couple of months ago at another conference, and we talked about this, and 97% of people in the audience said they were dealing with major transformations in their business. I was shocked. It was not 100%. Because I would bet if I had you raise your hands, most of you would be going through some level of transformation right now. And it is only accelerating. A statistic I like to share in that context is that we used to be able to measure major changes in how we do business at the decade level. Once a decade, twice, 2 to 3 times a decade. Right now, we're facing major transformations on how business is done 2 to 3 times a year. They are estimating that by 2027, we will be seeing monthly shifts in how frequently things change. And part of it's driven by, anybody heard of this thing called AI? So this message is so clear because this is the time to be prepared. This is the time to start thinking about the alignment that you can create in your organization to be prepared for the change, because you're not going to be able to be prepared for the change. It's going to be faster than you can commit. Now, I know they're going to ask for a little bit of survey from me, but I also have a little bit of survey here as well, if you don't mind. But I would love to get some feedback from you. I am a professional speaker. This is what I do to pay for, put food on the family for, food on the table for my family, excuse me. And I'm a consultant, and I drive this message to you to say, we can do this together. If you do, my new book is coming out at the end of the summer called Alignment on the Rocks. It really goes into deep detail around all of this and the methods and how to use this in your organization. But I'll send you a mini book copy of that if you provide feedback as well. But my hope for you is this. Reframe how you think about the obstacles that you face. Because if you think about them only in the context of them being a problem, you're going to lose those opportunities to change and leverage that for something more. And it is no more true than in business. The opportunities that are coming are going to be great if we're prepared for it and if we're thinking about it the right way. A lot of our teams are going to be thinking at it as, I can't handle it, right? We got to understand that that's the reality. So we have to start working now on reframing the thinking from C-level to frontline, that these opportunities are important, but alignment is where we get the power. So, in your own rivers, when you face rocks, I also hope you'll remember this message. Thank you very much.